What if I told you that your child isn't struggling because they are not smart or they are not intelligent, but because the world does not see their kind of intelligence? The problem with the one right way model of intelligence is that traditional intelligence or traditional systems praise logic, language, and memorization. That's what we do at school, right? It's math, English, and science. And parents are worrying and blaming themselves because they feel like their children cannot fit into these buckets of intelligence that the school system has given to us. And so today I want to talk about a better model of understanding intelligences, and that is multiple intelligence. Harvard psychologist Howard Gardner identified at least 9 types of intelligence. And so I'm going to go through these intelligences, and then we're going to talk about how this applies to us as parents, all right? So the first one is linguistic intelligence, and that's the ability to use words effectively, both in writing and orally. So if you have a child who talks and can read and write and is good with words, then they have this. And then we have the logical mathematical intelligence, which is one common one at school, right? And that's the ability to think logically and solve mathematical problems. And then we have spatial intelligence. And spatial intelligence is the ability to think in terms of space and visual images. So if your child is good with art, or they're good with, puzzles and things like that, then they will have this. And then we have bodily-kinesthetic intelligence. And that's the ability to control your body movements and handle objects skillfully. And so kids that are good with dance, sports, things that has to do with moving their body, they have bodily-kinesthetic intelligence. And then we have musical intelligence, and that's the ability to recognize, create, and appreciate music. So if you realize your child loves music, they can sing, they're good with melody, musical instruments, things like that, then they do have musical intelligence. And then we have interpersonal intelligence, and that's the ability to understand and connect and interact effectively with people. There are people who just have their way with people, right? They can connect. They meet people for the first time and they're just chit-chatting and creating a warm space for them. That's interpersonal intelligence. And then we have intrapersonal intelligence. And that's the ability to understand yourself and your emotions. That's being able to go deep into yourself and self-reflect, right? And there are people who are very good with that. They're able to ask themselves questions that helps them to go deeper, to understand their personal values, who they are, their emotions, and what's important to them. And then we have naturalistic intelligence. And that's the ability to recognize and categorize patterns in nature. So if you have a child who understands nature, different breeds of animals, dogs, all that, different types of fauna, flora, plants, that's naturalistic intelligence. And then we have existential intelligence. And that's the ability to grapple with deep questions about existence, such as the meaning of life, death, and the universe. So these are the 9 multiple intelligences. Unfortunately, traditional education doesn't recognize a lot of these intelligences. And this is very important for us to understand as parents of children with disabilities and complex needs, because recognizing multiple intelligences is a powerful form of advocacy for your child. It shifts the question from how do I fix my child to fit and become perfect at these other 3 intelligences that the school system is talking about, to how do I nurture their unique strengths, right? It helps us to stop fighting against who our children are and start building with who they are. So the whole idea is, we're not saying that we're not going to support our kids with the resources that they need to excel at school, right? The school will give them a lot of support. You can do tutoring, all that, to help them with the things that they're struggling with. But the whole idea is, how do we also play to their strengths so that we are not so fixated on the one thing that they're struggling with, but we can also celebrate the other strengths that our kids have, and also give them opportunities to nurture those strengths. And I always talk about, there are many things, great people in this world that we celebrate. Albert Einstein, he had a disability, yet today he's gone and we still celebrate him, right? There's so many people who have done great things, and they did have things that they struggled with that maybe society wrote them off for. But I'm sure their parents helped them to nurture the other strengths that they have and play to them for success. So if your child is good with bodily-kinesthetic, maybe they like dance, help them to nurture that. Give them opportunities to do that. If your child is good with naturalistic intelligence, give them the opportunity to go out there in nature and learn and even become better at that and excel. If your child is good with music, musical intelligence, give them opportunities. Maybe they want to learn a musical instrument or they have a wonderful voice. Give them opportunities to thrive. The whole idea is not to box our children into situations where maybe that's not their strength. We want to give our children the opportunity to excel and grow and become the best with the intelligences that they have. So if this video spoke to you, please like and subscribe and join our growing community at theparentforge.com, because this is a community where we equip you with information and tools and resources and coaching and mindset shifts like this that can empower you and your child to take advantage of your strengths and play to your strengths for success. And also don't forget to subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss out when we put out new information. Take care and have a lovely day.